Hey everyone, I want to welcome you back to another episode of Roots and Relics. This is part 2 of a series about my Uncle Ed and his secret family. If you haven't seen the first video, you're going to want to take a look at the link below and watch that first before watching this one. Just a quick recap. A guy named Larry emails me and lets me know that my Uncle Ed has a secret family. I really didn't believe him at first. After some extensive research, I came to the conclusion that Larry was right. My great Uncle Ed had a secret family. At the end of the last video, I told you that I was going to be tracking down the descendants of Uncle Ed's quote-unquote primary family, as well as his secret family. I wanted to show you some really cool strategies in tracking down descendants. One of the most important tools in a genealogist's toolbox is the obituary. If you can find the obituary for one of your ancestors, it's going to tell you the names of their parents. It's going to give you their birth date, their death date, the name of their spouse, the name of their children, grandchildren, sisters, nieces, nephews, etc. Obituaries are an amazing piece of history to be able to find and to be able to prove your lineage. The best places to go research and find an obituary is at your local library. Your local library will typically keep your local newspaper on microfilm. If you know that your ancestor died on October 1st, 1920, you can go to the newspapers for that time period in 1920 and be able to pull up an article, and odds are you're going to find an obituary for your ancestor there. I wanted to find an obituary for my great uncle, Henry Edward Smith. He died in a town called Weaverville, North Carolina, which is just north of Asheville. I live about 5 hours away from Asheville, so going there to go research and find his obituary is kind of a chore. Well, I have a really cool solution for you. It's a website called newspapers.com. Now, newspapers.com is a subscription-based service that's owned by Ancestry.com, and it allows you to research and find names and topics in newspapers from all over the country and all over the world. A subscription to newspapers.com costs about $70 per 6 months. So what I like to do is subscribe for 6 months at a time and go ahead and do as much research within that 6-month period as you can. If you want to sign up for a 14-day free trial at newspapers.com, there's a link in the description below. Here is a look at all of the newspapers in the North Carolina region that newspapers.com has in their archives. The Asheville Citizen-Times has been the most popular newspaper in Asheville, North Carolina since 1885. Since Uncle Ed lived really near Asheville, odds are his obituaries can be located in this newspaper. I did a search for Henry Edward Smith to see what I could find. Anytime you're using a website like newspapers.com or Google Books, etc., and you're trying to find a specific person, be sure to put quotes around the name. Quotes around the name, like Henry Edward Smith, is only going to give you results for anybody whose name is Henry Edward Smith. If you just typed in Henry Edward Smith here, you're going to get a bazillion results related to Smiths, Henrys, and Edwards. That will make your search so much harder. The very first item that pops up in the newsfeed is an obituary for Henry Edward Smith. So here's an example of the great information you can get from an obituary. Henry Edward Smith, 87 of Route 1 Weaverville, died unexpectedly Friday night in his home. Mr. Smith was a retired carpenter and a member of the South Fork Methodist Church. Surviving are 2 daughters, Mrs. Lola Burleson of Weaverville and Mrs. Annie Myrtle Collins of Muskegon, Michigan. 1 son, W.R. Smith of Cleveland, Ohio. This is great information. I knew he had 3 children from his primary family, but I had no idea what his daughters' last names would be because the odds are they probably married somebody. Now we know that one of them married a Burleson and lived in Weaverville. We know another one married a Collins and lived in Michigan. And we know that his son, W.R. Smith, lives in Cleveland, Ohio. 1 sister, Mrs. W.D. Ballard of Route 1 Weaverville, 12 grandchildren, and 14 great-grandchildren. We're definitely going to be able to find descendants from this guy, from his primary family. Services will be held at 2 p.m. Sunday in the chapel of West Funeral Home at Weaverville. The Reverend W.M. Hyde and the Reverend H.B. Dindy will officiate. Burial will be in the family cemetery at Ox Creek. Active pallbearers will be J. and Burren Ballard, James Hemphill, Robert Gosnell, Ernest Anderson, and Bill Robinson. Did you notice anything glaringly missing from this obituary? No mention at all of his other wife or his other 2 sons, Harley and Charlie Smith. I haven't yet contacted any descendants of Uncle Ed. I thought it'd be good to get some advice from one of my other cousins first. I did email one of my cousins who is also a descendant of his brother Thomas Smith. She also never knew about Uncle Ed's secret family. She met Uncle Ed when she was younger, and she had a picture to share with us. In this picture, from left to right, is Dennis Ballard, who is the brother-in-law of Thomas Smith and Ed. In the middle is my great-great-grandfather, Thomas Smith. And to the right of him is his brother, Henry Edward Smith. That's all the updates that I have for you right now. Stay tuned for part 3 as I contact my cousins, the descendants of Henry Edward Smith. Have you ever wanted to do one of those Ancestry DNA kits? The cool thing about Ancestry.com is their database is so big with participants that when your DNA is tested, they can easily match you up with cousins. Another cool thing is they can actually break down the percentage of DNA that you have in you. So if your part of your family is from England, they can say you're 33% English, 10% French, 15% German. They'll completely break it down for you, which is pretty cool. The reason I'm telling you all this is April 25th is DNA Day. And to celebrate this, Ancestry.com is giving a massive discount on their DNA kits. Usually their DNA kits cost at least $100. And right now they have a sale going on for $59 for a DNA kit. $59 is the lowest price I have ever seen them have. This sale is going to last until April 29th. If you have ever been interested in doing an Ancestry DNA kit, now is the time to do it. There is a link in the description below. I'm planning on documenting the process with you guys and sharing my results with you. I hope you'll do the same. Thanks for watching, guys.